Wait, some stream details failed to update. Restream seems to be complaining here today. Let me try.
Yeah, it looks like it was live for 8 minutes, 20 seconds and then dropped.
Yeah, but it's not showing on the event page. According to the event page itself, the stream never started. And so it's not showing up. This is, I think, this must have been what happened last time. We had a weird bug last week where the event showed up afterward as canceled, but the stream was still on our page.
Interesting.
Yeah, let's try this again. Try again. There we go. There we go. All right, it's all working now. Okay. So we'll just have two fragments of the conversation there, but we're actually live where it should be, where people are trying to go. So that'll all connect. So I'll stitch that all together in post. We'll fix it all in post. But we're actually live where we're supposed to be now. So cool. So for those of you just joining live, thank you for your patience there. That was a weird technical hiccup, but we're here with my good buddy Rajiv from Florida, from Orlando, Florida. We were talking about his new, well, I guess not really new because you've been doing it for a couple of years now, but soon to be full out of MVP with a paid program called AIR, which is an AI-based accelerator, which was super cool. Just give me the 15-second version of that for those who are like just hopping in now.
Yeah, absolutely. So our vision for AIR is to build the entire support ecosystem, starting with the strategy, the execution piece, various tools to help founders with their execution, as well as the entire ecosystem piece, which we will partner with accelerators to provide, which includes investor introductions, subject matter experts, first customer introductions, and the whole network that an accelerator provides. So AIR actually is not looking to compete with existing accelerators. We're looking to partner with existing accelerators. So we will provide the support infrastructure and a platform that will enable accelerators to 10x their ability to serve startup founders today.
Awesome. And so, like, what is the like, so some accelerators, focus purely on relationships. Others focus purely on capital. Others focus on education, and then some roll up their sleeves and are like, let's figure out how we find traction together through experiments. That's closer to our style here. How does AIR show up?
That's a great point. So we actually, if you talk about the founder first, and then we can talk about the accelerator. As you just said, accelerators have different specialties, but the founders have different needs. So they may have some needs that a particular style of accelerator may not be a good fit for them, right? So what we're trying to do with AIR is we're trying to fill in all the gaps, because it's a very spiky, uneven, kind of situation that a founder exists in, right? Because it's what did Eric Ries define it as? It's an organization built by humans working in extreme uncertainty, right? And not only that, on top of the uncertainty that already exists, the market's always changing, right? The technology is moving in all different directions. And then on top of that, the founders bring different skills and experience. So they may have domain experience in one area, but they might have no technical knowledge to build a product or to roll out a product. Or they might have technical knowledge, but they don't have marketing. Or they might have both, but they don't have the investment to make that move forward. What we're trying to do with AIR is when you do the onboarding and you get on AIR and you interact with it, one of the first things that you'll notice is it's not like ChatGPT, right? So ChatGPT, it's waiting for you to ask a question. There's a request and there's a response. You have one request, you get one response. Whereas with AIR, what we built is we've built curious AI, right? We've built something we call objective-driven AI, where when you come in, you're not asking questions, AI is asking you questions. And so we do an assessment. We have psychometric questions, we have background questions, we have questions about the product and the business, and we get a profile built through voice conversation or through chat, whatever you prefer. And once we get that information, we have specific recommendations that we identify as the biggest risks that are affecting your startup right now. Maybe it's customer risk, then you go to customer discovery, right? Or maybe it's technical risk, maybe you should focus on something like that. And then based on the recommendations, you will have a custom journey that is unique to you. And what we've done is we've partnered with existing accelerators to fill in the gaps that even the AI cannot solve. Like AI cannot solve the fact that you need funding. AI doesn't print money, so it can't give you money, unfortunately.
Yet.
Maybe someday. We'll work on crypto solutions for that at some point. But in the absence of that, you've got to actually connect with real investors. You got to give a pitch deck and all of that. But we can help you with that too. So we can reduce friction on generating a pitch deck that's a starting point for you to actually work on stuff like that. So we bring the whole thing together, and it depends. The custom journey is unique to every founder and their idea.
Awesome. Well, that's cool. So there's a lot of synergy with what we do at the Traction Lab. We have a lot of AI in the background. We don't have any active plans to productize that, but not closing the door on that. But it's actually it's pretty incredible what founders are. I think just not even aware that they can get, just from the wealth of knowledge, the entire sum of human knowledge that they have access to at their fingertips. And like the biggest barrier to that is knowing what to ask, right? Because as you mentioned, you have to ask it the question. And so we serve some of that role, and we've automated some of that on our side. But as a founder, you have to know to go in and I'm gonna ask this and frame the question, because AI is sycophantic and it's going to go straight for whatever it is that you ask with a largely uncritical eye, unless you're really good at prompting. And so the tool's available for everybody, but it's really freaking hard to use. So it's pretty cool that you guys got that in a inverted way, right?
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, accelerators are doing pre-AI. Accelerators were doing yeoman's work, really helping out founders. And what you do, of course, and what we do together at Startup Weekend, it's really hard to do, and you got to bring in all this knowledge, and you got to move the needle for the founder, and then you got to convince the founder that this is the right thing to do, right?
Totally. But AI is not going to solve that one yet.
That one's a little harder to solve. Yeah, you can only take the horse to water. You can't make it drink. But at the end of the day, I think you're right. It's the problem with existing AI is that if you go to ChatGPT or any of the AIs, right, and you ask it a question, if you don't know what the right question is to ask, and a lot of first-time founders don't know what they don't know, so they don't even know that they should ask a question about a particular topic, which might be the most important question for them to ask. Totally. That's a big problem, and that's one of the things we solve with there. Yeah.
Well, speaking of important questions to ask, we've got a sea of questions. You up for taking some questions from founders? Awesome. So for those of you, we do prioritize questions live. Apologies for the disruption at the beginning of the stream there. It ended up streaming to the wrong place, still to LinkedIn, still to the Traction Lab, but not to the event. So fun. But drop questions in the chat. We'll prioritize those. Otherwise, we do have a grab bag of questions. We have an even 6. So I get to pull out the 6-sided die. I do have all of the others for when we don't have actually 6, but we're at 6 today, so we're going to take advantage of that and use the boring die. So let's dive in and leave it all up to chance. Question 5 we're going to start with here. All right. So this is from a B2B SaaS company. Their target is specialty dental clinics. I don't know what specialty means there. That is, could have used a couple of extra words there, but specialty dental clinics. They're early revenue with some pilot customers. And their question is, we keep hearing from investors that our TAM is too small for venture funding. How do we know if they're right or if we just need to frame it differently? We believe our market is large enough that if we expand to adjacent medical specialties, but we have not tested any of those segments yet.
Okay. I'm not clear on whether they have a product that they're selling to dental clinics or the company is a dental clinic.
So it's a B2B SaaS for dental clinics.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I mean, if the investors are telling you that the TAM is too low, the TAM is too low for them, right? And at the end of the day, I think what investors generally are looking for fund returners, which means that the entire fund, so their exit from each company that they invest in should return the entire fund. And that entire fund return means that let's say the fund is a $100 million fund and they're going to put $1 million into a company. They're expecting 100x in order to return the entire fund. And that's only possible if the TAM is so big that if you capture, let's say, 10% or 5% of that market, then you're getting the entire fund return. So I don't know the specifics of that number for you, but if the fund's telling you that the number is not big enough, I would ask them what the number is. And then I would see if you can come up with your storytelling to say, okay, we can get there if we do X, Y, and Z.
That's awesome. The only thing that I'll add, from my perspective, is like I don't know what specialty dental clinics are, which is, I think, is that specialties doing some heavy lifting, because there's an awful lot of dental clinics in the United States. So like selling software to dental clinics is definitely venture backable. So what makes them specialty that limits the TAM so much? And then the second thing that I'll say is, like, assuming that it does limit it too much for it to be venture backable, then is it possible that this is a wedge, and that this is a need in specialty dental clinics, and then is useful to all dental clinics or other specialty clinics that aren't dental, places that do CT scanning and that kind of, like, is what you're doing like transferable outside that space, in which case it might just be framing that as, this is our wedge into the market because this is a really easy customer segment to get, and then we'll blow up after that, and here's some reasons why that's credible. But if it's truly just this, like, too small of a play, then maybe it's a lifestyle business, and that's just something different.
Yeah,
or it might be the investor persona.
Yep, and to tack on to what you just said, how feasible or how believable is it that you can crack other markets, and what proof points can we show that you can transfer what you've built for specialty dental clinics into other domains?
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Cool. Well, I think we beat that one. We'll return to the trusty die until the trusty die betrays us, because there aren't enough numbers left on the die. All right. Question 3, it tells us. So this is a marketplace for corporate event planners. A marketplace for corporate event planners.
Okay.
I feel like I'm missing the other side of the market there, but cool. They are also early revenue with some pilot customers, and they said, we're doing a free pilot with a big name company, but they've started asking for custom features that won't apply to our other customers. How do we decide what to build? The pilot partner could be a huge logo for our homepage, but we're worried about becoming too bespoke. Yeah,
that's a good question, and that's a question that affects a lot of startups, and you really got to do the math on this. And the second piece is you got to think about the technology, and there's ways to build code where you're not, making spaghetti code or infecting your entire product code with the stuff that you're doing custom. So first of all, you got to think about what's the ROI, and does this logo move the needle enough for you that it's going to help you launch into other areas? How big is the project, right? If it's going to derail you for a month or two versus is it going to derail you for a year or two, is a very big difference, right? And so your trajectory and what you're looking for there is affected by that. And then, like I said, the technology aspect also plays in. So you got to figure out whether you can continue to grow the business and not over customize your base product in a way that, like a plugin model or something like that. So it's not affecting your base product, where you can continue to scale out once this little detour is completed.
Couldn't agree more. I want to, there's one word that stood out to me here, which is they said it's a free pilot for this big company. And so I think that makes it even a little bit riskier here. Like, we're talking about changing our product roadmap for a free pilot, and all for a logo. And this feels to me like there's a lot stacked on this assumption that if only we get this logo, and then we're going to keep, and we're going to do all this work to try to get this logo, and if only we get it, then if we build it, they will come. And that's starting to worry me a little bit here. Is that what do we have actually some real signals from the market that there is that they will buy this, and that there's evidence of buying behavior, whether from this big name company or from others? And if we're lacking those signals now, then I would personally be super cautious about building something for one customer in a free pilot in the hopes that the logo alone will help us convert others. That to me just feels like a pretty big bet to make.
Yeah, I didn't catch the keyword free there. That is a big deal. I personally would ask for money for a pilot, especially if you're going to do something custom. But yeah, 100% agree with what you just said.
Yeah, and pilots are something that come up a lot because B2B SaaS is mostly where the Traction Lab plays. Like we do other things, but like that's 80+% of our portfolio, and so pilots are come up all the time. And most founders want to have like they gravitate towards free, really vaguely defined pilots. In the early stages, where it's like, we're going to get in, they're going to test this software out for us, and that'll be that. We'll do it for 3 months, and then 3 months rolls by, and I guess they succeeded in testing it, whatever that meant. But then there were no metrics of success. Nothing was measured along the way. And now they have this conversation like, so like, how do we get into the sales conversation? And I was like, well, you don't, because you didn't set it up from the start. Like you should have said like it's. I was actually talking to a founder earlier today who's looking to set up some paid pilots, and it's like even if you don't charge, there's still we're going to do X. For Y period of time, and we're going to measure Z. And upon success of that is when we convert out of the pilot into the real thing. And here's the price tag that's going to be associated with that. Because now we have like all of that within the context of hopefully they, that they're understanding that it's going to cost them 40 grand a year to do this thing.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, because I think at the end of the day, before you start a pilot, you should know what the objective of the pilot is and make sure that you're setting it up the right way. So sometimes your pilot is because you don't know if this technology is even going to work, and you're just looking for a guinea pig to test it out. And you don't care if the pilot converts to a paying customer or not, because if it does work, you have a ton of customers that you could potentially sell it to. Maybe that's not the objective. But in your case, if that is the objective, like you want to have that in writing, like an LOI or something that, we've got X amount of cash waiting for us if we execute and actually deliver the pilot.
Yeah, there's another company that comes to mind where they've done like 4 or 5 pilots, mixture of free and paid, but some of these were like really expensive pilots that were done, and not one of them is converted. And and every time in their pitch they talk about these pilots and the revenue from the pilots, and I'm like, you really got to stop talking about that, because really just keep telling me about all the customers you can't sell. That not only can you not sell them to, they tried your product and they still didn't buy. So I'm just getting worried. That
is a negative indicator for sure.
Yes, yeah, it's not looking so hot. But a lot of it is because they didn't some of it is structured where, okay, we're going to get our customers here to fund the pilot through like a grant or something. So like they didn't really have much in the way of skin in the game. And there's some check boxes there. Like there's a B2G one where there's like some checkbox stuff that like we have to do some of this like innovation work, quote unquote. And so this, like you do it going through this local startup, like checks that box for us. And so, right, we're going to do this pilot thing, but like the group that's doing the pilot is the innovation group that has no connectivity to like the rest of the organization, unless, I mean, they know all of the people, right? So if things work, great, but like none of that being set up like in advance. Like their goal wasn't to figure out how to push this into their organization. That was never the goal from the start, and so it was never going to convert. And like that's the lesson to take from that.
Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, innovation groups do a lot of cool experiments, but you really want to be selling to the main business.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And so if you can, like, if you're going to be working through the innovation group because that's where the money comes from, and like in B2G, like that's pretty common, then it's like, okay, well then how do we bring those people into the conversation earlier on so that they're part of like, okay, it's not our money, it's not our worry, that's all great, but here's what we're looking for as a measure of success, like from this innovation group, and then they become a stakeholder in that process along the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Cool. Awesome.
Let's take the next one.
There we go. It took 4 rolls to get a different number than the first 2. All right. Here we go. Question number 1. I could have just picked that one. We'll just go in sequence down for our final 3. All right. So this is another B2B SaaS, but they're targeting mid-sized manufacturing companies. They have an MVP in progress, but they're pre-revenue, no users or customers. We've had a handful of enterprise demos, and everyone says this looks great, but no one's moving forward. How do we figure out if it's a sales cycle issue or just a polite no? Most conversations start from warm intros. We don't have a dedicated salesperson yet. Founders are doing all the selling. So what do you think, Rajiv? Is this a sales cycle issue or a polite no?
It sounds like a no to me.
Sounds like a no to me too.
Quick answer.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's roll the die again.
I mean, so well, we want to leave them with some, like, what are the next
Yes.
steps,
Yeah.
right? So from a no perspective, yeah, it seems like a no, but why is it a no? And you've got to do some customer discovery here. The answer is customer discovery. You got to go talk to the customer and ask them about what their needs are and how does this fit in with their needs. There's a whole science and art of customer discovery. I'd encourage you to go Google the phrase customer discovery and how to do it. And if you want to use aiar.co, you can put your idea in there. It'll walk you through the customer discovery process. So feel free to use the mobile app. It's on both the app stores. But that's the first step, right? And it sounds like we've gone to MVP stage and you're pitching to customers and doing demos, but I didn't hear that the customer discovery step was done. And if you're seeing no's at this point, then it's highly likely that you haven't gone through a formal customer discovery process, which is not a selling process. It is about literally discovering the customer's pain points. So I would highly encourage you to go back and do that really in a non-biasing way with enough volume that's statistically significant, which I would say is upwards of 50 or 75 individuals that are having this particular pain point that you're trying to address.
Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more with everything that you said. I'll add in one thing to sort of look out for, because you're getting that this looks great. So the polite no, often, like, there's a number of different ways that can come about. But if you're getting a lot of positive signals, and I'm just going to make some things up that weren't in the question, but in the case that they are, if you're getting a lot of positive signals, but then you just can't get the sale to actually happen, and so they're like, wow, this problem sucks. Glad you're working on this. It's cost me hours a week, and you're getting all these positive signals, but when it comes time to take substantive action, like actually start exploring contracting and those kinds of things, if it just starts falling off, you're like, well, why? They had the problem, they loved the solution, why didn't this move forward? We see that a lot too, and it doesn't change that it's a polite no. It's not a sales cycle, it's still a polite no. But the thing that wasn't surfaced in customer discovery, if customer discovery was done at all, was that it was a problem that they have, but there's not urgency around the problem. So as they talk about it, they're going to say it sucks, and they might even like your solution, but they don't either have they don't have the time or the money or the mental bandwidth, even the human resources that they need to devote to actually tackle that right now, because it's not the problem number one or problem number two or problem number three on their list, and nobody pays to solve problem 5. Right. And so you can get a lot of those really positive signals and still have the deals not all go through. And we see this a lot on the B2B side, because what's missing to understand where you are in the priority list is the context. And so where is this problem in the context of the customer's life, right? They have a lot of other problems. They don't only have one. What are all their other problems? Where are they, putting their time and their energy into? And so one of the things, if you want to understand priorities in customer discovery, one of the things you can do is get them to list all the problems that they have. They're probably going to have not 1 or 2, but 5 or 10 of these that they say are problems. And some of them might say, it's not really a big deal. Others are going to say are a big deal. Is you can give them a budget, quote unquote, here, I'm going to give you $100, and you can put that toward any, one or all of these projects. How would you allocate the money? And then they're going to say, oh, I'd put, $50 toward this one problem, and I'd put $5 toward this other one. It's well, that's telling you a pretty good signal that what's important in their mind is this one problem. They're not going to split it evenly across all their problems. So it's a way in customer discovery to kind of surface some of those things.
Yep. As you were talking, I agree with everything you said. As you were talking, just thinking about a couple more points there. One, in order to hire you, do they need to fire somebody? So if they have an existing solution in place, that they're already using, maybe your solution is better, but in order to bring implement your solution, they got to get rid of this thing that they've already spent years building out, or whatever it is. They've got some stickiness with that existing product, maybe one of the issues. At the end of the day, it's all about cost benefit, right? The effort and the cost, the time and energy they need to put in to bring in your solution, is that perceived to be greater than the cost and effort of continuing to do what they're doing today? Is what they're going to do a trade-off on. And the ROI on that is this a painkiller, or is this a vitamin? That's another thing to look at. Is this a benefit that they can do without? I mean, sure, it'd be nice to have that benefit, but it's not really going to make a big difference. But if they have a serious pain that they're trying to solve that they can't solve any other way except with your tool, that's a pain reliever, and you want to have that rather than the vitamin. So there's a couple of other ways to think about how much benefit you actually deliver to the client through the solution.
That's awesome. Our simple, direct answer to their question mushroomed into lots of good advice. So that's That's awesome. You got time for a couple more questions?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. So we got two more. I'll just take them in order here because otherwise I might end up rolling that die like the intro to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Den. Like they've flipped the coin 50 times in a row and got heads every time. All right. That was a theater reference most people aren't going to get, but it's a really funny play. All right. So this is a B2C mobile app, which we haven't had a question from a B2C. So thanks for throwing that in here. We haven't had one in I think a couple weeks. All right, they're targeting, or sorry, they gave a complicated answer. So originally they were targeting fitness enthusiasts, but currently they're targeting professional dancers. Okay, and their product is live, but they're pre-revenue. And their question is, our early traction is all from a niche audience we didn't expect. I'm assuming that's the dancers. Should we pivot to serve them better or just keep pushing toward our original ICP, which I guess is the fitness enthusiasts? Retention is higher in the dancer group than in the original target, but our branding, marketing, and roadmap are all geared toward fitness.
Good question. I think we need data on this one to really crack the nut for me. Like, how much more retention, and is the price point the same? Are they more likely to have higher LTV is another question, because the initial price point may be different, but you might find more stickiness or less stickiness for one or the other. Is it something that they use for 3 months and they go off to something else, or is it something that's going to be a longer cycle with them? I'd need some answers on those numbers in order to provide more detail here, but yeah, you got anything, JDM? I feel like I need more data on this one.
I definitely can't say like go this way without lots more data. I guess to nibble around the edges a little bit, which might be the best that we can do here, is if I'm reading between the lines a little bit, like they say our traction is all from a niche audience. So I'm like we might, subject to some asterisks, take that to mean that fitness enthusiasts weren't too interested in what you were offering. So like, I'm not sure what it would look like to pivot and like push toward that ICP if they're not liking it right now. Like if they're not resonating with it, is that because like, do we have a theory about why that's true? Were we putting the message in the wrong place and we just happen to be getting professional dancers instead of the fitness enthusiasts, or is that a messaging issue? Like, do we have an hypothesis about why the fitness enthusiasts didn't attach themselves onto this thing and sign up? I think that's going to be a big component, for me here. The second thing, like that's sort of related to that, is that we do have some data that there is a group of people interested in solving this problem, but yes, I do want to see a lot more data, and I'd like to see the unit economics that you were like referring to, Rajiv. Like I want to see lifetime value and how much they're paying, and like what's the market size for each of these things. And if we're targeting professional dancers, does that mean that there's a B2B play in there somewhere? Like that, there's a lot of servicing questions here, but I also want to like tap the brakes on the importance of the question because we're pre-revenue. And so does it really even matter that you got professional dancers to use it because you haven't gotten them to pay for it yet? And so like what's going to like, are we going to get that? Like, if we were to open up like and charge money, would they pay for it right now? If so, I mean, cool. And if not, then we really aren't in any better position pursuing that audience than the one that didn't reply to us. In fact, we're in a worse position because they're just consuming our server resources and costing us money. So that's me nibbling around the edges. What do you think?
No, good point. I didn't get, again, you got the whole question in front of you. I'm trying to rely on memory here. It is pre-revenue. No, it's okay. I should pay more closer attention. Pre-revenue definitely does change the conversation, because if you're saying that you got more traction with a particular niche, but you haven't really tested the market in terms of how much are they willing to pay for this, then the point is we really need to do the experiment of starting to charge the group that you have traction with. And then if you find that your unit economics works out for the dancers, for example, then just nail the dancers segment, right? Finish that, like really do that well so that you can, deliver for those users, and you can increase your subscription to a point where, it sustains your investment in it. And then try to go to parallel groups. And maybe you find that there isn't a one size fits all in that space. I don't know what the solution actually does. So some of this is, again, nibbling around the edges, is maybe you can go to some other group, like maybe it's a certain age group of dancers, or maybe it is something adjacent to dancers, like, I don't know, martial arts. I'm just making this up, but whatever that adjacent segment might be, you might want to just make sure you deliver on the one that you're getting the most traction with, and make sure that you're monetizing it.
Totally. We got a question from the chat here from Daniel. So I'm going to throw it up. Fun little aside, Rajiv. So Daniel is he's the founder of a company called Swirl. And you can read he put thank you, Daniel, for putting a little description in the comment there. But you know why I can't hear him talk about Swirl without hearing Swirl, baby. Exactly, every single time. And that makes sense to no one else who's listening to this right now, probably, unless some of your Orlando friends hopped on. But their Startup Weekend Orlando, SWORL. And so Rajiv always had this cheer at the beginning that was Swirl, baby. And so, Daniel, every time you mention Swirl, that's what goes in the back of my mind, is Swirl, baby. Anyway.
That's funny. Yeah. Coincidence there, but yeah, that's pretty cool. Daniel.
Yeah, I think it's cutting off the question here. So I'm gonna actually copy and paste this into the private chat on here, Rajiv, so you can get a better look at it. Plus, this is taking half of our face away. So I'm gonna drop that there. I'll go ahead and then hide this comment so you can see that there. But okay, so Swirl is an AI-powered platform that helps brands work directly with communities to co-create campaigns focused on the top of the funnel, trust, relevance, and advocacy. With Meta and Google automating the lower funnel, we see that space becoming commoditized. How can we position to investors that we're seen as brand tech and not MarTech? Interesting.
You're helping brands work directly with communities to co-create campaigns. I'm not sure how you're distinguishing brand tech with MarTech, because there are some social media brand related products out there and companies out there that help you connect with influencers. I'd be curious to know how you're working with a community directly, how a brand can work with a community directly versus working with an influencer that connects to those communities. Yeah, that's a hard question without knowing the specifics of how you're doing the connection between the brand and the community. Is it a direct connection, first of all? And can Daniel respond here or no?
Yes, he can. And I'm gonna, Daniel, there's a 1 minute delay between when we say it and when it shows up on LinkedIn. But Daniel, I'm actually gonna send you a little link here so you can just hop in. I just WhatsApped it to you, but if you want to actually hop in, we can take that question a little bit live, because I understand a little bit more about Swirl than you do, but I think this is a question that might benefit from a little back and forth. So if you're available, Daniel, click that link that I just WhatsApped you and hop in. But he did add one little clarification in the comments. Which is, we're getting bucketed into the MarTech categories that are mostly lower end of the funnel. Right. Yeah, there's because there's tons and tons and tons of MarTech here, but there's a few big brand tech things come to mind. There's lots of platforms, including a former unicorn. I think they may have exited recently, but here in Sacramento, that was all influencer based, and so there's a lot of competition in that space. I'd be curious to know why is their feedback from the investors that you're talking to that brand tech is more interesting to them, or is that more theoretical that you want to put it you want that label to to apply? But let's punt on that for just a second and see if we can get Daniel to hop on. And in the meantime, we can do our one other question and maybe come back to that.
Sure.
So let's see. This should be question 4, I think, right? Oh, we have 2 more questions. I forgot. I don't think we'll get through them both. Do you want the AI machine learning tool, or do you want another B2C mobile app?
Let's do AI. I don't think we've done AI yet.
All right, awesome. Here, so I'm just gonna copy and paste. It's kind of clunky, so apologize for it being a little clunky, but I'm gonna copy and paste it into that private chat here. But there we go. That's just off of Google Forms, so it's not exactly the best formatting here. But all right. So they're an AI machine learning tool for freelance copywriters. Their product is live, but they're pre-revenue. We're struggling to get users to complete onboarding. Is it better to simplify the product for first-time use or offer more upfront guidance? We've tested shorter onboarding flows, but those users churn faster. Longer onboarding keeps more high value users, but conversion drops. Oh, I like this. This goes to like UX. So you and I are like we're good people to have this conversation. Why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a challenge that everybody has. Definitely, one of the techniques that has worked for me in the past is reduce the have a shorter onboarding to begin with, and then have like a concept of profile completion or something else that nudges the user on later on to finish up and complete. Because what you want to do is time to value, and you want to reduce the time to value as much as possible. And finding that path for your product is really crucial, because the longer you wait before somebody can actually see whether this thing is useful to me or not, the more the chances are that they're going to drop off. And yes, you want to keep around your high value users. You want to have that process. So you want the best of both worlds. One of those is to keep the onboarding process to an absolute minimum, and then have some kind of concept of nudges and profile completions and some gamification or whatever to try to keep people engaged and answer some of the other questions later.
Yeah, there's a lot of best practices about this that are pretty easy to discover. I think that I would want to know why specifically you're focused on the onboarding and what the consequence is, right? So like if I read between the lines a little bit here, and then Daniel is here, so we'll bring him on in just a second. If we're saying that, the short onboarding flows, you get people in, but they churn faster. So my conclusion from that is that there was nothing to do. So like they may have gotten in, but then like maybe they were just confronted with nothing but empty states for things, and so they didn't know what to do. And when you do the longer onboarding flow, those people who actually got through that process they had something to do. They weren't just presented with empty states, empty tables and everything everywhere. But then of course a longer onboarding flow is going to cause the people who weren't that serious to begin with to churn. And so I would want to tease out, are we churning people who were never really invested in the first place? Right? Or are we churning people who were invested, but it's like, this is a lot and they need help with, like, for all the reasons that you mentioned, Rajiv, like that maybe we can, kind of incentivize that a little bit. Another thing that we see a lot is, and this is definitely on B2B, but are there things that you can do during onboarding to lower the burden? So in B2B SaaS, oftentimes that's like some API connection to a tool they're using. And so like if instead of them entering information their own, can we slurp that information, off of their own systems, and so that they don't have to like do a lot of that stuff manually? There can be some of those things that you can do for this. But I would want a little bit more data to try to zero in on like why we're focusing on the onboarding and what the users actually say about us. Also, like I'm really hesitant to focus much on onboarding and retention when you're pre-revenue, because I don't necessarily care yet that you're retaining users that aren't paying you money, and because we don't even know if the users who would ultimately pay are a subset of the users that you're keeping or losing. And so we might just be defending like our retention for a bunch of free users that are never going to pay us anyway. And so like I just think order of operations wise, I would focus on getting to revenue.
And the other thing with that, exactly right. And the free users, the most confusing part of it is there's gonna be a lot of tire kickers, and I don't know how you're acquiring these users today and what channels you're using to find these users, and are those, like JDM was saying, the real users that you want to be connecting with. So you might find a lot of people trying out products for free. They're not really serious about it. They just see this thing, it sounds cool, they click a button, they look at it, but they were never going to engage with it in the way that you want them to. And especially if you aren't charging them for it, you really don't know what their commitment level is to the product.
Totally. Awesome. All right. Well, Daniel, welcome. We'll bring you on there. And let me see if I think I hid the labels here, but let's see. Why don't we start with, can you give us, and us being both Rajiv and the broader audience here, give us the elevator pitch for Swirl?
Yeah, and for some reason you guys are frozen, so I'm not really sure.
I see Rajiv. I see everybody moving.
Yeah, I see JDM, and I see you as well.
Okay, so I think it's better. So basically, what we're trying to do is we're trying to help brands tap into communities that they want to target and help them actually create marketing campaigns with them and amplify those within their own community. So that's basically what we do, and the areas that we focus on is building trust, advocacy, relevance within those communities by the communities themselves. And have those then power further downstream conversion efforts that they can do through AI and whatever. But what we've been there's just a couple of investors that said there's so much craziness happening in the MarTech space, especially with Google and Meta, and I think Zuckerberg said like recently. I think by mid 2026, all the ads are going to be AI, like AI generated, AI produced, AI copied, AI like placed. Which we also agree. Like we think that's going to be the wave of the future. They have all this data. They can put the right type of ad right in front of you at the right time. But what we're saying is before that ad actually is going to resonate, you actually need to build your brand. And the brand is built in the community. So what we do is we actually allow brands to co-create marketing campaigns. So not just produce this content, but their ideas, their sentiment, are actually generated into campaign briefs that they then actually produce the content. We did this with Cricket Wireless recently for Black History Month. So you have a national campaign that's localized by the community and it's their own work and they're pushing it out. So when investors hear that, hey, you're focusing on the top end, like the brand advocacy, perception, awareness, we get better resonance. But when they see it at a glance, they're like, oh, you're a MarTech solution. You're an influencer platform. You're like, and so that's the thing that we're struggling a little bit is how do we say we're brand tech? And what is brand tech anyways, so that's kind of that's what I wanted to ask. But.
And to just for a couple of other little pieces of detail, so you guys have customers, you have big name customers, you have substantive revenue at this stage, and then like when you're saying you're talking to investors, put a little context around that. What are you talking to? Principally to funds, I'm assuming at this stage. Okay.
Yeah.
And then so you're talking to funds. This is mostly in the Valley, right? It's mostly in
mostly in the Valley, correct? Like
yeah. Okay.
All
right. Awesome. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Rajiv?
No, I like it's a little bit more clear now in terms of how you're distinguishing between the two things, and you're not talking about just campaigns that can be iterative and resonate with a particular audience. You're trying to do the pre-work, which is understand, like it's more of the customer discovery piece, if you will, of finding what people really care and how this brand should be positioned in the market and all of that stuff. So it's more of a discovery piece that you're using an AI-powered solution for. In terms of distinguishing it, I mean, you could start by putting that on the first slide, right? Just say like, hey, we are not MarTech. We're not, at the funnel. Just up front say, instead of we are this, we are not this, right? Say that in the same sentence, if you will. That might help. Another way to position it is we really want to make sure that when we look at the existing tool sets that exist today, all the AI-powered stuff that's happening on the low end of the funnel, where do they get their information from, right? And so if you let them think about it, right? If you're doing a live pitch, like, where do you think they get their information from? So this is stuff that people are making hypotheses, and they're saying that we want to position the brand this way or that way. And then they use the AI tools to generate a bunch of campaigns or a bunch of different messages around these particular positioning statements. And that's great. Let them do that. We don't care about that. Nobody's doing this, right? So once you get them to think about it and they try to solve the problem in their head and they can't solve the problem, and then you tell them the solution, that might help them to find out the difference.
Oh, that's great. No, I love that. That's really interesting. Yeah. Thank you so much. That was very helpful. Appreciate it.
Glad to help.
Awesome. The one thing I might add to that, and I couldn't agree with more with everything Rajiv said. So well said. Is it might be worthwhile to mention for those who aren't aware why the space that you're targeting is the one that is lucrative long term. Like from my experience in like anything ad tech, martech, brand tech space, there is anybody who's like any investors who aren't focused on that space, as you probably discovered this too, like it's pretty hard to get them to understand what that space looks like. And so you're going to get placed in categories that you're not, and you're going to get like, I've been in places where I saw you get silly questions, and they're not like, they're only silly because of a lack of experience, like experience in this in the space, but like, and so the more that you can actually say, like, strategically, this is not where, like, even from a portfolio perspective, like, you don't want to be making your play over here. We don't want to make our play. We're not making that play, right? There's a reason, like, this is the much bigger play that we're not going to be this, like, this is the way to do the future AI version of this, right? That, like, this isn't a now solution. This is a 2030 solution.
Right. No, that's so helpful. Thank you both. Appreciate it. I'm going to jump.
All right, cool.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Daniel. Cool. All right, let me switch back to so I'm not taking up oddly just 2/3 of the screen there. Cool. Well, that does bring us to the end of time here. I was going to say we begin on time and end on time, and that's usually true, except when I completely apparently botch or restream botches or LinkedIn botches. I don't know who botched. Somebody botched something at the top of this, so apologies for that. But Rajiv, thanks so much for joining.
Absolutely, always a pleasure, JDM, and hopefully fatherhood is looking good on you. You seem to be full of energy. You seem like you're getting enough sleep and everything.
My wife took the kid this morning, so I didn't have to get up at 6 a.m. So that's that's good. I got a little extra sleep. He's just over 2 now, so you're a bit ahead of me on this. When does it get easier? That's not a comforting reply.
let me get back to you when it does get easier. I need to play this out a little bit.
It's going to be like college or something like that.
I hope so. The reports are not encouraging so far, but we'll see. No, I'm kidding. They're great. I love my kids. They're awesome. It's a lot of fun, but it's just a different kind of fun at every stage.
Yeah. Cheers to that. Well, we'll go ahead and end the stream here. If you guys still have questions, either drop them in the chat, or you can, because the chat will keep going, or you can go to jdm.bio. There's a link there where you can ask in the broader Google form. I think I'll bring back, so Cameron and I have a chicken scratch doc where I'll usually, or he usually, one of us will paste the question into. So maybe I'll do that for the next guest too, so that the questions aren't a little bit all over the place. And are you going to be back next week?
Am I supposed to be back next week? I thought I'm happy to. Let me see.
I don't remember.
Yes, I do have you next week as well. I thought this was a one-time deal, but I'm happy to be back. This is always fun. Yeah.
Well, I won't put you on the spot, but you're welcome to come back and hang again. Super valuable. Always appreciate your time, man.
Absolutely. No, I just see it on my calendar. So I will see you next week. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good one.